Welcome to the greatest podcast in sports betting entertainment. My name is Tanner Kern, certified G, bona fide stud, and you can't teach that. In this right here, this is G Money Grant Mitchell. We're here breaking down everything you need to know about preseason football. We're talking about Noah Lyles being a little baby back, you know what. We're talking about a lot of other things on the show today. Grant, bada boom, man, the people in the room, how you doing?
I'm doing really good. I was waiting to see if you were going to ask me if I was riding, but the answer to that question, even though you didn't ask me, is yes, I am riding. I'm riding through the weekend, riding through a rough weekend of NFL preseason betting. Some of the strategies that I had in place, quarterback depth, looking at teams, if teams are playing each other in the preseason and then playing each other again in the regular season. I was looking at the unders in those games. Those didn't come through. This proved for me, I already knew it, but it once and for all proved to me the preseason is a shit show.
Yeah, I made a decision this weekend that I'm never betting preseason football again. And to anyone out there on the internet, on TikTok, flaunting, like, I know preseason betting, like, there is so much value in preseason betting. Anyone saying that, they're lying. They are 150% lying because the quarterback rotation is one thing, but you don't really know how they're going to play until they get into the game. Number two, nobody cares to win a football game at the end of it. So, like, preseason football betting, regular season betting, MLB betting, soccer, NBA, it's all hard. Like, so don't come here and say, like, there's more value in preseason football.
I agree. And I will say, I thought there was, not to switch topics too heavily, I thought there was value with the Olympics, especially me as the former track guy, like NCAA track runner. Like, I know a lot of these guys, a decent amount of them I actually raced against a lot, but there are these competitors out there that have raced once or twice this season, and the sports books are building their odds based off of that. Whereas, me, like, not to brag, but I follow the sport. I know these people, I know their styles, et cetera, et cetera. I was expecting to have a big advantage in a lot of areas, and some I did. Like, I picked Cole Hawker, who was plus 2,200 to win the 1,500, and that happened. But then my absolute number one bet of the Olympics was Noah Lyles to win the 200. I said he's close to unbeatable, and then he ends up getting a bronze. Now, I will say it's BS that he had COVID. Well, let me be clear here. I believe he had COVID. It's BS. It did not come out because people bet their money on this stuff. So it's like an injury report. Like, we should have known. And as soon as he finished, all the reports came out saying that he has COVID. Well, they knew. And even if he didn't have COVID, it's been confirmed he had a 102-degree fever. So something was wrong, and they knew that information, and they didn't put it out there. So I did end up getting screwed by that.
It probably would have helped to put it out there, not only for the betting sake, but because maybe it would have gone to the minds of his competitors, like, hey, we have a chance to win. Or maybe that's a bad thing. I'm not really sure. But I agree with you. That's what makes it hard. Like, injury report. We don't get injury reports in track like we do in the NFL. If this happened in the NFL and he, like, left after a couple plays, there would be a huge scandal, and it would be
a Dante Porter event.
Yeah, it would be very similar to that. And we've had it in the NFL too, when it's not a Dante Porter event. People just, I think it was Bijan, last year, right? He was.
Oh, yeah.
We've had similar situations. So I agree. You should have had an injury report for track. We're going to talk about Noah Lyles here in a minute. But first thing, you need to subscribe to the YouTube channel. You need to like the video. You need to share the video. You need to follow on TikTok. You need to follow on Instagram. You need to follow on every single platform. Those are all linked below. So get that done right now. And before we talk about Noah Lyles, I want to bring up a little Logan Gilbert news today. So we're recording this on Sunday night. So this just happened a few hours ago. This man threw 7 shutout innings, and then immediately went to play college football 25. And all the comments on the internet are like, Logan Gilbert's one of us. He just wants to do his job and then go play college football 25. I can relate to this. I also think it's a really bad look that he just threw 7 shutout innings and is not watching the rest of the game. But what do you think, Grant?
Oh, see, you're teaching me here. I thought you meant he went to play after the game ended.
No, 7th inning, like, gets pulled. Any inning ends, he just immediately walks back in the clubhouse and starts playing. And I wasn't following the score, so this will be the big test right here, what the score was. They must have been winning by a decent amount, I'm hoping. So the game is still going on right now. No, this was the first game of the doubleheader today. Was there a doubleheader today? Oh, man, I'm learning so much.
Are you sure it's not Saturday's game you're talking about?
It probably was Saturday's game, and they won 4-0. And Logan,
yeah, it was yesterday's game. It was, let's see, he came out after what, 7 innings, right?
And he immediately went back to play college football 25.
So it was 3-0 when he left the game.
I mean, I think you should have stayed out there.
That's one hit away. You got to stay and watch the game.
You got to stay in. Even if you're up like 20, like, shouldn't you just stay out? Like, college football 25 is waiting for you.
No, see, I again, you're teaching me this now. I thought you meant after the game ended, he immediately went to play, and I would have been fine with that. I would have defended it against boomers and older generations because professional athletes have spare time and they can use it how they choose. But no, you got to go support your team. I was on Logan Gilbert's side until you told me right there was in the middle of the game he left. That's unexcusable.
That's what I got from Twitter, but I also got the vibe from Twitter that he pitched today. Again, baseball betting's not going good right now. I'm just watching football, kind of done with baseball. So again, journalistic integrity is a little off right now on my part. So I apologize.
Today was a little weird, and today being Sunday. Sunday was a little weird. It was pretty much all underdogs that won.
In baseball?
Yeah.
I mean, I saw the White Sox have won one game in the second half of the season. Like, that's everything you need to know about baseball right now. The White Sox suck. The Dodgers aren't really winning great. Did the Dodgers lose today? I think they were in a tight game.
No, they won in extras.
All right, they didn't cover. I needed them to cover. But anyways, baseball going off the rails. It's football season. It's honestly track and basketball season right now. So the U.S. wins the gold medal, and then the story comes out about Noah Lyles, how he refused to go to Anthony Edwards' shoe release. I'm trying to like Noah Lyles, Grant. I find it hard to like Noah Lyles.
Yeah, so I'm in a very precarious position here because I've said this before on the show, on the podcast, but I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, I raced against a lot of these guys when I was running high school track. I currently live about 5 minutes away from where Noah Lyles lived during high school. I raced his high school every weekend, essentially, winter and spring throughout all 4 years of high school. We graduated the same year. We competed in the same regional championships, the same state championships, and the same national championships, obviously. Like, I've seen this guy race with my own two eyes at least probably 30 times, I would say. And I never, we're not friends. Don't get me wrong. If he saw me, he would not recognize me. I've spoke to him maybe once or twice. But everything that I saw, because I had friends that were like, I didn't run the same event as him, but I had friends that did. And from how they described him, from how I saw him interacting with other people, and again, the 1 to 2 interactions we did have, like, he was a nice guy. This person that he has become is, I don't know if it's one of two possibilities. Either he has taken what he thinks is his responsibility, and in many ways it is his responsibility to grow the sport of track, because people don't talk about track. We had Usain Bolt, like, that's all we had, and when Bolt retired, we lost everything. He has the responsibility to grow the sport of track and field. So it's either him feeling that he needs to be as braggadocious and outgoing as possible to make these headlines, or he's gotten famous and it's just completely changed the person he is. Either way, and again, the people who grew up, the people that grew up with him and the people that grew up competing against him, like, we should be the people supporting him more than anybody. And I've defended him to you. I've defended him to some of my other friends. After this Anthony Edwards quote came out, I can't do it anymore. Like, he is just, he's corny. He's not cool. He's disrespectful. It's cool if you want to talk shit. It's cool if you want to put on a show. I'm okay with all of that. But it seems like every time he opens his mouth, he's talking down on his opponents, or he's just doing something weird and ill-mannered. And this Anthony Edwards quote is just another example of that.
It's a wild quote. So basically, he got invited by Adidas to attend an Anthony Edwards event last year. It just came out now. He declined the invitation because he said, "You want me to do what? You want to invite me to an event for a man who has not been to an NBA Finals?" Like, so last year, how many years in the league had Anthony Edwards been?
I believe Anthony Edwards, I think this is his third year.
He really just became relevant this year. But like, he became a star this year. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I want to double check. It is his third year. But I believe it should be.
He said, "I love that they saw the insight to give him a shoe because they saw that he was going to be big. All I'm saying is, how could you not see that for me?" Two separate situations here. We're talking
about his fourth year, by the way, but still, same thing.
Two different situations here. I love growing the sport track. I'm a runner myself. I think it's awesome. But like we're talking about probably the biggest sport it's the biggest sport in America outside of football. But as far as like seeing somebody and personality, it's the biggest sport in America because you're seeing these guys personally. The NBA is all about drama. So like the fact that Noah Lyles is trying to say like, well, Adidas didn't give me a shoe. Like it's totally different. 100%.
And it's also a failure to read the room, because if you can pinpoint one specific demographic of Americans that probably have the most hatred for Noah Lyles, it's NBA fans, because he's the one who said world champions of what? Y'all ain't beat the world yet. So he should know he's on thin ice with the NBA crowd. And again, like I'm not going to say that I would never say you have to suck up to somebody because they're more powerful than you or they make more money than you, right? But Anthony Edwards is 22 years old. He's clearly charismatic, 22, 23, however old he is. He's charismatic. He's making $250 million. He's been earmarked as the next face of the NBA. He's going to be your teammate at Adidas Noah's going to retire before Anthony Edwards, most likely. So however long Noah's got left, he's 27 now. Figure he makes it to like 33, 34 on the Adidas contract. So he's going to be your teammate for at least minimum the next half decade. There's no reason to create this. It does nothing for you. It doesn't make you more money. If you want to get in a shoe with Adidas, telling them that, I don't get why you're getting Anthony Edwards a shoe when I should have them. That's not doing anything for you. That's not getting you a shoe. And it's just creating disharmony in your own camp. It's just a dumb thing to say all around.
So he's an Adidas athlete right now.
Noah Lyles and Anthony Edwards both are, yes.
But he's complaining that he doesn't have like a signature track shoe.
So I believe he's talked about this before. I believe he wants his own actual shoe, like a trainer, a tennis shoe.
So my number one issue here is the fact that that's your employer, basically. Like Adidas has to be his biggest sponsor. So you're refusing to go to a party that your employer is throwing, basically, in the scheme of employer contracts, right? Whatever.
And also just to jump in, by the way, aside from Usain Bolt, Noah Lyles has the largest contract of a track athlete ever. So Adidas has invested in him heavily.
Yeah, Adidas is invested in him heavily for running. And again, we're two different sports here. It's just two totally different situations. It's almost like he's trying to be a dick. Like he's outwardly trying to be a dick. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Anthony Edwards is a fantastic basketball player, as you're saying, teammate at Adidas. Like the NBA guys did nothing to you. The NBA guys are just in the one of the biggest sports in the United States. It's not your fault that you're not in that sport. You're a great runner, but it's a totally different situation here. And your job to grow track shouldn't be to get on the bad side of the NBA, because people think you're people want to see you lose now.
And I can't tell you how many people I've talked to, because again, pretty much everybody I know, even people who aren't necessarily my friends, just acquaintances, like they know me as the track guy, because, let's be honest, track and field is not the most popular. Like you played football. Obviously you were good. Most people aren't good, but people play football, people play basketball, people play baseball. To find people that are actually committed to running, especially distance running, like marathons and stuff like I am, it's a smaller crowd. So when people come to me and they talk about Noah Lyles, they say the same thing every time. He seems like the biggest douchebag in the world. He seems so self-absorbed. And I have to tell them what I told you, which was he wasn't like this. So I don't know if he still is the way I remember him and he's putting on a character, or the fame has changed him. But either way, this person that he is portraying, nobody wants to root for.
No. And also too, when you're talking about like Adidas from a business standpoint, like Noah Lyles is replaceable. Noah Lyles is relevant every 4 years with the Olympics now. And the world championships don't matter. In my opinion, at least, Grant, you're the track guy, but people are watching the Olympics. Right. You're not going to watch Noah. We're not really going to talk about Noah Lyles much until 4 years from now.
The only reason we did talk about him before was because he made that comment about the NBA, which was right after he won the world championships.
And eventually that's going to get old. But like Olympics, from a business standpoint, I can promote this shoe around the Olympics. Adidas would have that money that they're paying Noah Lyles, like they probably could get just as big of an ROI giving it to micro influencers around and sprinkling around and selling running shoes. Like, I'm sorry to say it, like Noah Lyles is a great athlete. He's one of the best in the world. But as far as like a business standpoint, he's popular, really popular for once every 4 years. Anthony Edwards is popular all the time. every basketball season. So from a business standpoint, who's selling more shoes? Anthony Edwards.
And again, this is, I don't know who's a solid, respectable NBA. Okay, like these are both Hall of Famers, right? But James Harden and Paul George, like they're great players, and yes, they have huge fans and people like them. But right now, at this stage of their careers, like they're not necessarily ascending or anything. Like we're talking about Anthony Edwards. This could be the best basketball player in the world in the next 12 to 18 months. Like this could be the face of the NBA, a multi-billion-dollar corporation. You got to read the room. Like I said, this is not only the wrong thing to say, it's the wrong guy to go after. Everybody loves it.
And you want to be on his good side. Like it would mean so much more to your brand going to that event, taking a selfie with Anthony Edwards, getting it on Instagram, and getting all those Anthony Edwards fans over to your page. And then they watch the Olympics this year, and then they see how dominant you were at the Olympics, and they're like, hey, I'm a fan of this guy now, instead of being the one everyone hates. It just makes no sense. It's bad brand. It's bad branding, in my opinion, and especially to tell Adidas that I'm not coming to your party because you didn't give me a shoe and you didn't recognize how great I was early. People don't care about early track athletes right now. It's not the same level of basketball.
And what I've noticed about Noah is that he tends to make these, he either does these actions or makes these statements, and then he comes out and kind of backtracks on it. Like after he won the gold in the 100, he was given the speech at the press conference, and he tried to be humble, and then Fred Curley egged him on. He said, "Talk your shit, man." And Noah Lyles, after 45 seconds of humility, said, well, you know, basically F that, F what I just said. When we get to the 200, when I'm coming off of the turn and I look around and see everybody else and they see me, everybody's going to be depressed, you know, talking smack. And then he gets third in the 200. And I don't know if he knew he was sick at that time or not, but it opens the door to things like this happening. And then to his credit, he goes on Instagram and he congratulates the Olympic 200-meter champion, Letsil Tebogo, the guy from Botswana. And he says, you deserved it. And you had a tough year because his mom died earlier this year. You know, humility there, but he still made the statement. And then when he made his first comment that blew up, the World Champions thing, after the World Championships in Budapest, he says all of that. And then he comes out and says, I want to be clear, I have no problem with the NBA players. I think they're the best players in the world. Okay. And then with this Anthony Edwards thing, he says, I don't understand why you're giving him a shoe and not me. And no, I'm not going to the party, but I'm happy Anthony Edwards got his shoe. He's talking out of both sides of his mouth. He doesn't, it's almost, again, I don't know if it's a character. I don't know if it's him, because it seems like he's got one side telling him to say something like the devil on his shoulder, but then the angel, which is like who this person that I remember him as from 10 years ago, is talking back to him. It just seems like he doesn't know the person that he actually is.
It's a problem. Now, another Olympic talk, Grant, before we transition to football here, are you all good on Noah Lyles?
Yeah. I mean, he was sick. He won a bronze medal. Like, that is a remarkable achievement. Congratulations to Noah. He won the gold in the 100 as well, but he's got to figure this out, man, because nobody wants to root for him. And if he wants to get a shoe, he needs people in his corner.
Oh, 100%. So we record our last show on Thursday, and at that time, the U.S. had just advanced Friday, the U.S. had just advanced to the gold medal game. Tatum's mom, did you see that? Tatum's mom quote tweeted Dick Vitale, and she's like, why isn't he playing? Yeah. Kind of wild. AAU basketball has made its way to the Olympics. Grant, I think Steve Kerr's an idiot. I really do. I think he's not the best. I think I think Tatum wasn't a top 5 guy on the floor in those high leverage moments, but how Steve Kerr treated him in the moments leading up to those when there were blowouts, Tatum should have been in the game 100%, which made it look worse when he wasn't in the game in the big moments.
So I'll tell you my approach. And let's be fair, Steve Kerr, I don't know. I would assume because Steve Kerr is the head coach, he has the final say, but he does have Tyronn Lue. He does have Eric Spoelstra, and he does have Mark Few. The other two being two of the top minds in the NBA, and then Mark Few, Coach Gonzaga, one of the top minds in college basketball. I don't think he came to this decision on his own, but ultimately he does control who subs in and subs out. So we can say he had the final say. I'll give you my thoughts on how I would have handled it. And again, I'm not Steve Kerr. This doesn't really mean much, but you can let me know what you would have thought of it. So I would assume the coaching staff kind of figured out what their best lineup, at least their best starting lineup. I don't know if they knew their best bench rotation, but they knew their best five, I would say, after a game or two at the Olympics. So this is how I would have done it. I would have made sure I played Tatum along with everybody else, all of the warm-up games. Everybody gets to play in all of the warm-up games. Maybe you can stagger the minutes. We're going to give 25 to LeBron and Steph, and then, Halliburton and Derek White and Tatum, since he was at the bottom. Like, you guys might get 6 to 8. You're not going to play much, but you're going to play. I'm not going to disrespect you. Maybe play them for a game or two in the group stage, because at that point, it's not do or die. Also, your group is Puerto Rico, pretty much an automatic win. South Sudan, who, although it was a 1-point win in the warm-up, you should still beat. And then Serbia is tough, but if you lose to Serbia and you go 2-1, you're still moving on. Heck, if you go 1-2, you're probably still moving on. So I would have phased Tatum out after the first, maybe the second game of the group stage, and then he's on the bench the rest of the way. And that, even though people would still be upset Tatum wasn't playing, there would have been a clear path of, he had his chance, I lost trust, he doesn't make the cut for the rotation. With Tatum, it was like, it was almost like how you treat a player when there's a contract negotiation going wrong. He was just frozen out. He was an afterthought. And then Steve Kerr, this is where I have the real problem. Steve Kerr gets the public backlash, starts him for a game, and then Tatum immediately goes back to not playing at all. That right there, again, if you felt you could have used Tatum after having him not play any minutes, then you bring him off the bench for 10 to 12 and see what he does. You don't put him in the starting lineup. That was a panic decision. That was an, I effed up. And then he went back on and benched him again. So I think Steve Kerr definitely mismanaged that whole situation.
Oh, it was so bad. You had to give him a chance, because if Tatum's bricking in these like warm-up games in the first round, whatever, pool play, you have the excuse. But Tatum is the only first-team All-NBA player on this roster this year, correct?
It was Luka, Shea, Giannis, Jokic, and Tatum.
Yeah, so Tatum's the only first-team All-NBA guy on this roster. And the fact that you don't play him, it looks so bad. But I think the positive is, for like Celtics fans, you've slighted Jaylen Brown already by not putting him on this team. You totally disrespected Jayson Tatum. Like, the Jaylen Brown disrespect isn't even close to making Jayson Tatum go to Paris and just sit on the bench and ride pine this entire time. So I think
he was sitting next to Tyrese Halliburton.
Tyrese Halliburton had a great tweet, though.
Yeah.
That was when he said, like, when you're in the group project, you don't do anything, you get an A, whatever it was. That was a great tweet. If Tatum would have done it, it would have slapped even more. But Tatum's pissed. You could tell, like, he just didn't want to be there at all. You can't blame him.
No, you can't blame him. And it's not necessarily the most original idea in the world, but I am stealing it from Kevin Wildes on First Things First. But he said I would have to go back and look, and I did go back and look. This is probably the first time in NBA history the champions, including their best player and their finals MVP, come into the next season with more motivation than ever, because they were being disrespected. Like, the Jordan Bulls with The Last Dance, they were motivated, but that's because they knew it was ending. Kobe and Shaq came into the season motivated, but they were fueled by hatred because they didn't get along. This is like, not only does your own team doesn't believe in you, your own country doesn't believe in you, the world doesn't believe in you. I can't remember. And these are the two most expensive players in the history of basketball. Again, the reigning champions, one of them first team All-NBA, one of them finals MVP, and they feel, and they rightfully feel, like people don't respect them. It's just weird and wild. And I don't know what to expect, but I'm with you. Like, if I am them, I'm going into next year saying, we won, 65 games? We're winning 75 this year. We are going to make you guys believe in us, since you don't.
No, I think this is the official kickoff to the Celtics dynasty right now. If you're making the 30 for 30, this is kind of where it starts. Like,
if they win next year's championship, absolutely.
Yeah, this is where it starts. It would be a sick documentary too. I mean, Celtics 3-1 right now. They're expected to win the finals. I think they have a very good chance. Would you take them again, Grant?
No, because I don't like taking teams early in the year, just because injuries and things of that nature. And also, like, Al Horford was a very important member of the Celtics rotation. He's old as dirt. Porzingis is injury prone. He was still injury prone with Boston. So I would wait a little bit just to see how they start the year, but they're certainly near, if not at the top of my favorites board.
You're still going to get 3-1 though halfway through the season. They're going to be 2-1. I mean, they're by the end of the year they were down to plus 180, I think, in those last month of the season. So you're still going to get decent odds. The odds can only lengthen really when they start at 3-1.
Is this Derek White's team now?
Yeah, I guess it's Derek White. Derek White played more minutes than Jayson Tatum. That's pretty bad.
So I want to say this though, because it does. Again, it goes back to, I don't necessarily object with Steve Kerr not playing Jayson Tatum. I at least think there is an argument to be had there. It's how he did it, which, I already spoke like 5 minutes about. But if you do break it down, the wing, because Tatum is a wing. He's not going to play point guard. He's not going to play center. Like, he could play 2 through 4. So if we look at the players that were blocking him, quote unquote, well, we've got Anthony Davis, who did play 5, but he also played 4. We've got Kevin Durant. We've got Derek White, who questionable. Like, I'm going to take him out. I'm going to leave Derek White and Tyrese Halliburton out of this because I think they're objectively the 2 worst, great players, but the 2 worst players on the team. You've got Kevin Durant. You've got Anthony Davis. You've got LeBron James, obviously ahead of you. Anthony Edwards, we know, is going to play. The real question is almost who are you playing, Jayson Tatum or Devin Booker? And in Devin Booker's defense, he played really impressive defense, some of the best defense I've ever seen him play. He led the team in shooting efficiency, and he scored, I think, 14 points per game in this tournament. So, again, my objection is not so much that Tatum did not play. It was just the handling of his situation.
Jayson Tatum, 28-1 right now, MVP. It's a pretty juicy bet there with the slight.
The thing with Tatum, and I think this is why Tatum catches so much flack, is, how we've had conversations in the past about how Anthony Davis probably could be the best basketball player ever, but he has the mindset of a Robin. He's a second star in mindset, despite his talent being some of the best ever. I'm almost wondering if that's who Jayson Tatum is. Like, throughout the playoffs, and I guess you have to give him credit for not stepping outside of his role, but throughout the playoffs, he was content to sometimes coast and sometimes be carried by his teammates. And again, I guess that makes him a good teammate, and that's what sports is all about. But if you want to win an MVP, if you want to be the best player in the world, that's not how it happens.
No, but I think in this year, that's what it took to win a championship for him. He knew he didn't have a shot. He was the rebound guy. He was the assist guy. Jaylen Brown was the star, and he allowed Jaylen Brown to be the star, which was cool to see because he wasn't don't get me wrong. There were moments in games where he was forcing stuff, but he wasn't outwardly forcing stuff to a point where it was costing them games.
Yeah, I agree. I know we spent a lot of time on that. You want to talk about the NFL preseason real quick?
Yeah. So there was a game today there where Trey Lance and the Dallas Cowboys lost to the Stetson Bennett and the LA Rams 13-12. Trey Lance threw, let's get the box score up, 41 passes in a preseason game. Mike McCarthy should be fired just for that. Straight up fired. He also ran the ball 6 times, 44 yards.
It also wasn't just 41 passes. It was 4 yards per attempt on 41 passes. So he threw the ball 41 times and had 180 yards.
Completed 61% of his passes. So, I mean, I guess you want to see what he can do, but also, and you know what they're also doing? They're trying to show him off and say, is this trade bait too? That's another thing. Like, can he be a reliable backup somewhere? Can he be the face of a franchise somewhere?
So, I don't know if I agree with you.
Why do you think he threw 41 passes? You don't just throw 41 passes in a preseason game.
I think it's because they want to know if he can run an offense. Everything I've seen from the Cowboys and how they've handled contracts, including Dak, but also not including Dak, like Dak has gotten the short straw every time. I mean, he's gotten his money, but they've constantly stalled his negotiations. They've given him the franchise tag. They're going to re-sign CeeDee Lamb. They're going to re-sign Micah Parsons. Where's the money for Dak? I don't think they're going to pay Dak. And if that's the case, Trey Lance right now is the next guy. That could change very quickly. But maybe this is like, let's see what happens if we act like if Trey Lance comes out and throws 34 passes in the next 40 passes in the next 2 preseason games, then I think it's safe to say they're actually trialing him.
Yeah, I agree with that from that perspective. It's an internal trial, but it's also, I think we'd be dumb to think it's not an outward tryout either. If they are able to re-sign Dak and this guy lights it up and we got Dak and we can bring it back up and we can get a really good deal for him elsewhere. Like, I think it's just overall, just let's see what he's got. And that could be with us. That could be with somebody else. But you don't throw 41 passes in a preseason game unless there's some motivation behind it.
Yeah, you also don't throw 4 interceptions in a preseason game. Stetson Bennett and Tanner, this goes back to your clip on TikTok that people were so angry about, but you're playing against future insurance agents, you're playing against car salesmen, you're playing against 4th and 5th stringers, you're playing against 1AA guys that are getting a shot at see if you can find a diamond in the rough. 4 interceptions, like come on, man. I understand you were a 5th round pick. I understand that you were a 2-time national champion at Georgia. This just isn't going to cut it. And when I say cut, like you might get cut for this. Sean McVay was overjoyed at the end of the game when he finally threw a touchdown pass. And I'm sure as a coach, you want your players to succeed. But what am I supposed to do with this? What am I supposed to do with 4 interceptions in a preseason game?
And Stetson Bennett did walk away from the team. So like last year, like he had his moment where he had to leave the team. So like this is his first time playing live football in a while, but not a good showing from him. Pretty ugly game overall. And Grant, the people on social media, they are so stupid. Like I did a video. If you guys watched the last podcast, basically I said preseason football, the 4th quarter is just kids living out their dreams before like entering the insurance sales workforce. That's not wrong. That's accurate. That's still the best players in the world. Now I post a video today about Logan Gilbert, how he played college football 25 right after throwing 7 shutout innings. And all the comments so far, bro is a pitcher. His day is done, out of his hands now. Hella people do that. Most starters don't watch the game after they pitch. Like, okay, so how do you know that? Like, have you ever been in an MLB clubhouse?
And this is the thing too. Like, even if you don't see them in the dugout, they're probably watching the game in the clubhouse. Maybe they're on the treatment table, but they've got the game on a TV. I can almost guarantee it.
Yeah, I guarantee people just don't go play video games after their start. Like, I threw 7 shutout innings, so I'm ready to go play college football 25. So this game was pretty ugly. We had talked about the rookie quarterbacks, though. Grant, we can start with your guy, Jayden Daniels. What'd you see from him?
Well, I think Jayden Daniels and Caleb Williams, the top 2 picks in the draft. Not at all talking smack on your guy, Drake Maye, but I do think they were the 2 most impressive rookie quarterbacks. Honestly, if you want to put Joe Milton in there, even though your team had the 3rd overall pick and this isn't the quarterback we probably expected to talk about, I think those were the 3 most impressive rookie quarterbacks. Jayden Daniels was interesting. His first pass was a 3-foot screen pass that he threw over the running back's head. I think it was Austin Eckler. Not sure on that, but he was jumping when he threw it, which obviously is bad. You want to have your feet set. I understand you're backing up in screen pass. You know, it's completely different protection. There's not even really any protection. It's also the first pass of his career. Like maybe it was just a little nerves. I don't know. And then his second pass is a 42-yard dime. I don't know what the play was originally. He checked to it and basically sent De'Ami Brown on a go. Dan Quinn after the game said he didn't really have permission to do that, but he did it and it worked. And it was a gorgeous pass. And then he ends up running into the end zone a few plays later, show some of the speed. Like, only played 1 drive, can't judge him. It's the preseason, but he looked good. Caleb Williams, in 4 completions, got 95 yards, 13 and a half yards per attempt. He's got a lot of weapons around him. I still feel really good about him with the Bears. Again, Drake Maye was probably the least impressive of the 3, but he's only 21 years old. Like, I'm not expecting him to come in and light the world on fire. I wouldn't even start him in week 1.
And he played 1 series, or 1 or 2 series. It was like draw or run the ball, tackle behind the line of scrimmage, false start, incomplete draw, screen. Like, it was all basic stuff. They didn't let him throw the ball down the field at all. So you can't really tell until we get later in the preseason. I think Jacoby Brissett's going to be the week 1 starter there, but I agree. I mean, Caleb Williams looked really good. Jayden Daniels looked good. Drake Maye, we didn't see enough from him, but Joe Milton is the face of the New England Patriots moving forward. He's an absolute stud. I think Drake Maye will be another Mac Jones.
And in a weird way, Joe Milton's almost in a better position than Drake Maye or really any of the top rookie quarterbacks, because it's the fact that he is the 3rd string quarterback and he's coming in at the end of the games. He has more license to freelance. The plays are different. The coverages are going to be worse. Plays are going to break down more. So he's going to find open receivers. He's going to have the freedom to run the ball more if he wants. And also he's not at risk of being cut, but nobody's expecting him to be the starter. So whereas Drake Maye is kind of playing, like, you know, when Drake Maye's in there or Caleb Williams or Jayden Daniels, it's going to be very conservative play calling. We're not trying to give anything away. And also the quarterbacks are being told, like, we don't want you to run. We want you to be safe. Joe Milton's out there. They're going to be calling regular plays for him. And if he wants to run through traffic, he can do that. If he wants to air the ball out, he can do that too. So it's a weird situation going on there in New England.
Joe Milton's in a great spot. He is in an unbelievable spot because not like you say, he's not going to get cut. He's third string quarterback. He doesn't have to worry about playing at all. Like he can just sit there and say, I'm not going to play, but I'm going to make the team and I'm going to focus on getting better as a quarterback. And when I go in the preseason in the fourth quarter, I can just go have fun. And that's kind of what we saw from him. So it's exciting. And he's also 6'5", 247, and he can run and throw. So there's not many guys that can do that, which also helps his ability to not get cut.
No, and even though it is the preseason, like, you know, let's say across the next 2 games, he averages, you know, in one quarter or one half, like 150 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. A team might legitimately trade for him and say, like, this guy has all the physical talent in the world. We liked what we saw. Like the how about the Raiders? They don't have a quarterback. Why, if they can trade what did the Patriots spend on him? Was it a 4th, a 5th, a 6th?
I thought it was like a 5th or 6th.
Yeah. So if let's say it's a 5th, if the Patriots spent a 5th on him and the Raiders come to them and say, hey, we'll give you a 3rd, like that, you've just got a return on your investment already.
Yeah. And Drake Maye should be worried because this is your insurance policy. He was a 6th-round pick, but this is your insurance policy. And he's going to be right there. And he's not going to be a career backup in New England. I'll tell you that. If Drake Maye ends up working out, he's not going to be playing for the Patriots long term. He'll be playing somewhere else.
It's an RG3 Kirk Cousins situation, honestly.
Yeah, it is. And he's waiting. He's coming. I mean, this happens all the time, especially if Drake Maye doesn't work out. I mean, look at Bailey Zappi to Mac Jones. Not that Bailey Zappi belongs on an NFL field right now based on how he played in the last preseason game, but he's a back. Like, Bailey Zappi is good enough to be a backup in the NFL. So, anyways, Grant, that was Ride the Line.
That was Ride the Line. We appreciate you guys joining us.
Yep. Thanks for joining us, guys. It was a great show. Make sure you smash the subscribe button, like, share, comment, do it all. Grant, take us out of here.
That's going to do it for this episode of Ride the Line. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Drop some comments. Let us know who you think was the most impressive rookie quarterback. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. We will catch you all in the next episode of Ride the Line.